Yeah, we're going to talk a bit about the World Economic Forum and a little bit about my own journey, which I've never actually disclosed in public before, which is tied into wealth transference, which is all part of the manifesto of the World Economic Forum and this not so great reset. So, yeah, for those that maybe haven't heard of me, I have been a DJ and music producer for over 30 years, travelled the world and continue to play music and produce music and do what I love. But like many of us, over 2 years ago when this began, everything kind of collapsed and fell apart. I'd been in Australia in February 2020, everything was great, the world was normal. Returned here, and within a week we went into the first 2 weeks to flatten the curve. So I had a full diary of work in 2020, and all of that evaporated. So there I was, my core income gone, and that really was very, very difficult. So the story behind that is in 2007, I became involved in a property development, building 10 eco-properties in St Leonard's with 2 partners in a company. We built 20,000 square feet of property, heat transference systems, solar panels, carbon offsets, yeah, all of the eco stuff. Yeah, so that began in 2007. I'd left the music business for a couple of years and got involved with this development business, not a business that I had experience with, which became a very, very costly lesson in life and experience. And I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not coming from a place of ego here. I'm just sharing my story and my part of my journey. I mean, it would take, kind of a few hours to go into it in details. But yeah, so we got on with this building project. There was a number of local contractors employed by the site that we built. We bought the site at auction in Clive Emson for £260,000. This plot of land, I can remember that day clearly. We used a local company for all of the piling and foundation works, Performance Foundations, brilliant company, highly recommend them. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the credit crunch arrived in 2829 and the project got underway. But the project encountered a number of problems through one of the directors who claimed to have a lot more experience. He'd ordered all the materials, well, a lot of the materials from Europe, and the euro, the pound was strong against the euro. And then in 2009, the credit crunch came and the banks were bailed out. So this went on for quite a few years, and we had been loaned more money on the original loan, and then it got to the stage where the bank foreclosed on the loan. Now, 2 major banks in the UK, they sold their loans, well, they sold the loan books at what they termed a toxic debt book to a US vulture fund, who came in and swooped up two major banks, and in Ireland, banks in Ireland, and also residential property. There are thousands of people in this country still trapped in as mortgage prisoners, where their interest rates went from 0.5% up to 5, 6, 7%, and they're still in that trap now today. This, it's not really common knowledge unless you've been kind of like affected by this. So, in my opinion, that was the early stages of the wealth transference, what we're seeing today, and part of this whole 2-year period that we've gone through, and ongoing, of people losing their businesses, people losing their homes, and it's it's not going to get any better. So I can totally resonate and feel the pain of people who are in this position now, particularly over the last 2 years. I don't know if any of you remember seeing that video of that guy at one of the London rallies outside King's Cross Station. He broke down on the street outside the station. He was a broken man, crying his eyes out, and the police were trying to arrest him. Well, that bloke he had lost everything. He was bankrupt, and it's a very dark place to be. So we were made bankrupt in the High Court of Bankruptcy 2017. You know, I'd done all right from my music career, and then I'd refinanced my property in London, and that helped fund this development, and it also was invested into some other assets. All of those assets were taken. I lost everything. I was homeless for around 6 months. I went to live in a guardian's position in a care home in the depths of Walthamstow, which wasn't a very nice experience at all. But you know, there's people going through this right now, and it's going to get a lot worse. So it's very difficult actually talking about this, and I hope I've kind of made it clear in a snapshot. But you know, the banks colluded with this American corporation, and it's a scandal. It's an absolute scandal, and people were victims of corporate extortion, and that's exactly what it is. And this is what the World Economic Forum are aiming to carry out across Europe and the world, with this dreadful ideology that they hold. Yeah, where was we? So that's the backstory on that. But this past 2 years has been, you know, very, very difficult. You know, kind of 2020, bloody, you know, signing on benefits for like 6 months because the core income was gone, and that's just like, it really, I'm not a depressive person, but I got depressed because I got myself back to parity in 2020. I paid off the trustees in bankruptcy with the large amount of money that they wanted, that they required, and I'd worked throughout 2 or 3 years and just paid them back. And I got to that point, and the last quarter of 2020, and it was a great feeling. Actually getting back to parity and thinking about the time ahead. Great, I can, you know, kind of start saving some money and get back into a house and live in a house. You know, that's, you know, I think that's what everyone really wants, isn't it? To just have the ability and the, you know, the to live somewhere that, you know, they feel is home and comfortable in. So all of those plans evaporated, and here we are. So I became very active within the freedom movement around May, June of 2020. Initially, you know, I have to admit, I was sucked into this whole thing for a little bit as well. You know, kind of, I did wear a mask on public transport for a couple of months, and then I thought, what the hell am I wearing this mask for? And it was, I think that was in June in 2020, and I just thought, I'm not wearing it anymore. It's just, you know, this is pointless. I don't wear it in a shop, so why do I wear it on the train going to London? And then I became very actively involved with the freedom movement, attending all rallies, lobbying MPs, and I'm now an ambassador with the Together Declaration, which is a fantastic campaigning group. And if you're not familiar with Together Declaration, then please have a look at the Together Declaration .org website. Great campaign group. There are more campaigns incoming around the online harms bill and the right to protest and general human rights issues, the WHO pandemic treaty, and a number of other key issues. We're being bombarded on all fronts at the moment with all of these different issues. So yeah, the last 2 years has been quite a roller coaster for all of us, hasn't it? You know, one way or another, we've all been affected. This division that's gone on, the discrimination. It's, you know, it's obscene. It's just horrible. You know, kind of we are stronger together, and we've been divided, and it's, you know, an agenda that has unfortunately divided a lot of people, including members of our own families, sadly. I personally try to rise above that and not be divided. And I made that decision with my own family over a number of matters, and continue to uphold that. Kind of the language that people use. I don't particularly like that terminology of calling other people sheep. Everybody is on their own journey in life, and some people with the level of consciousness and awareness are further back along the road, and many are ahead. But that just adds to division, and that's not a place we are coming from. We have a huge fight on our hands here. It's an extraordinary time that we are living in. A thrillingly dangerous history, and in some respects it's a blessing to be here, living through this. And I often think, how did those people in the Second World War on the home front feel, halfway through the Second World War? There's not an awful lot, reported about that, and mental health was. The issues around mental health and the understanding of mental health is far more advanced now in the present. But, when you think about it and you put yourself in those shoes, how are they feeling through this fight? Because, you hear people saying, it's, we're tired, we've had 2 years of this, but it's not over. It's not over. We're having a bit of a respite at the moment through, a few weeks of summer, as we did last year and the year before. But this is far from over, and that's what I often think about. What got our families and through those challenging times back then, through 1939-45. And this is a non-conventional war that we're in right now. It's a psychological, spiritual war that we are in, and this ideology behind. Particularly the World Economic Forum, a sanctimonious bunch of unelected bureaucrats and technocrats and billionaires and these figures that have self-proclaimed elite. What they're trying to impose on us it's unacceptable. We haven't elected them, we haven't voted for them. Who the bloody hell are they? Who are these people? What right, think about this, what right does any man or woman have to control another person or dictate to another person? We live our lives responsibly, we do no harm, and that is, that's the foundations of life. So therefore, what right do these people have to tell us how to live our life and dictate that to us? And try to exert this control over us, rather than resisting the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization, for that matter, and these other organizations. We renounce them. We live life on our terms, the way we choose to live our life, and that's what we need to focus on, and focus on what makes, what enriches our life, whether it be, your hobbies, your work, whatever it is. Let's focus on that, and let's focus on that more. And in the meantime, we can't just totally dismiss what's going on, but make people aware, talk to people. I was in a supermarket. I went in to get a bottle of water earlier in the morning, and I walked in there, and there's a whole self-service checkout system, and there's 2 tills and 3 tills. And there's only one person on the till, so there was 2 people in the queue there. There was loads of other people there, so I had to chat to people in the queue. There's a lady in front of me, I had to chat to the cashier, and I said to them, look, these people here, they're doing you out of a job because they're just like doing the job at the supermarket. And I said, those cameras, those AI facial recognition cameras that people take for granted, and they believe that they're for shoplifting and for people's safety and security, those cameras are harvesting data, our personal data, which is being sold on. That's it. That data is valuable, and people just don't really understand that. But if we start talking and engaging people wherever we go, it's very surprising because people actually listen. And the lady on the till, she didn't know about what those cameras, what are those cameras? What's facial recognition? And she was actually kind of having a bit of an aha moment herself. And she was actually very made up. The fact that someone had said, like, your job needs to be protected by people being aware of not using those self-service checkout points. That's just one of many things. But it is about engaging wherever we go, you know, with our level of knowledge. I'm sure most people in this room have thoroughly researched over the last couple of years. I for one, haven't been sitting there watching Netflix all hours, as, you know, kind of people talk about what's on Netflix. I haven't got a bloody clue. I don't know what is on Netflix. I used to watch it, but I just engross myself researching and reading and watching documentaries and gaining knowledge that we can share with others. And now is the time for, you know, more outreach. We need to be out there on town centres with all of these issues, with particularly this central bank digital currency that is the Bank of England are driving forward. The importance of using cash, of keeping cash in the economy. There's this other misunderstanding with a small minority of people who just think, well, you know, kind of cash is for money laundering and you know, kind of drug dealers and all this crap. And it's just like, they don't understand that cash actually gives you freedom. Going back to, you know, being bankrupt, you know, you haven't got a credit card, you haven't got any credit cards, you haven't got a credit line anymore. So, you know, cash in those circumstances is a lifeline, an absolute lifeline. The elderly community, they're not using these smartphones generally. They're a lot of that community. The community is adverse to, you know, using credit cards and so on, and they prefer cash. But it's, you know, we need to have a balance of cash and cards. The option to use both, not just the extreme of pushing us into this cashless society. So every transaction is monitored on the blockchain and is all tied into the social credit system, which is based on the Chinese model. We are not China here, and we never will be China. And there's a lot of us here, there's millions of us that are opposing this. You know, central bank digital currency, the Bank of England and the World Bank think that's a great idea, but it's intrusive, it's overreach, it's surveillance, and there won't be any cash anymore. There won't be cash. Then what do we do? If there is no cash? So these are really, really crucial issues, and this is why we really need to get out now in town centres and distribute leaflets and talk to other members of the public who may not be aware of these topical issues, and win hearts and minds. That's what this is about, because when you have a conversation with someone, you know, kind of maybe like 5 or 7 times out of 10, people are unaware, and then you start talking to them, and they actually start thinking about it because they're not seeing it on the news, and the way these things are packaged up, it's for convenience, and it's, you know, it's all for your benefit, which is quite the opposite, as we are aware. Yeah, as a DJ, I brought joy, and that's what I continue to do through radio and working on the club scene, and that's my role. But that's just one area of my life, and you know, I've taken flack like we all do, you know, online, and I don't care. I do not care. I do not engage with it. I rise above it. I will not engage with the negativity. It's about pushing forward, raising awareness, and standing on the right side of history. Because that's what we're doing. We're standing on the right side of history with courage and without fear, just as our forebearers have. And that is really important, because in the years to come, this will be looked back on with historians, and our children and grandchildren, we can look them in the eye, and they will know that we were standing on the right side of history, doing the right thing. And this is really about not complying to this tyranny. You know, people are complying to tyranny. Non-compliance with millions of us, they're not going to triumph. are they? You know, whether it's the WF or some of the policies here on home shores, they're not going to triumph, and that takes strength. But you know, the awareness is crucial, and coming together. Well, we've got the energy price hikes. It's going to be very, very devastating, and the interest rates rising, inflation. The final quarter going into 23, it's going to be very, very difficult again, as it was during the lockdown. And this is unavoidable. We have a tendency as human beings to the psychology of, if there is a problem, then that problem can get taken, and it's a big problem. We can ignore that problem and push it down the road, or have the hope that somebody else will take care of the problem. And quite often that happens, but it's not going to happen in this period of history that we are living through. It's up to us to take on that problem and create solutions and solve that problem. No one else is going to come and save us, and that is the basic psychology of how we think. And this is what's going on with a lot of people. You think, well, why don't they actually get it? What are they not seeing? You know, but a lot of people are seeing what's going on, but they're just choosing to actually kind of put it aside and ignore it, rather than actually acknowledge it. And that's just their way, a coping mechanism to deal with this major battle and problem that we all have, each and every one of us. I mean, there are some people, a number of people, who have profited nicely out of this whole crisis. And my own view is there really needs to be a full forensic audit on where these billions have gone. I mean, just one example, £37 billion on track and trace. That doesn't really kind of register, 37 billion. There needs to be a full forensic audit. There is an inquiry that is in development from a number of the campaign groups, which is coming on the near horizon, and they're all pooling their resources. But these things need to be looked into in fine detail. You know, billions have gone out, but meanwhile, you know, we have the tax man knocking on our door. Where's the tax when you haven't worked? It's like, well, I haven't worked, so, you know, as soon as I work, then you get paid your tax. And that's how it is for many of us. So all of these experiences have led me to, you know, think about, you know, the corporate world, and the corporate dominance that is going on, the stakeholder capitalism of the WF, and the globalist coup d'etat. That's what it is across the world. It's a globalist coup d'etat, and this rising globalism and sovereign nations. This desire to have one world governance, and that's been, you know, kind of deemed as a conspiracy theory, but it's now out in the open. Centralised banking, centralised health, and centralised governance is a very disturbing prospect. But you know, Mr. Klaus Schwab and Harari, these people are absolute psychopaths. I mean, they're straight out of some Bond film, and it really does feel sometimes that we're living in this like kind of reality horror film, and you wake up sometimes in the morning and think, okay, it's still going on, right, okay, let's get back to the battlefield. You know, you just have a moment, you think, oh great, yeah, it's over, and it's not. I don't know if anyone else has that feeling regular, you know, it's how it's affected us. But it's surreal. It's like living in one of the worst bloody nightmare films that you could watch. And these people are just so audacious with what they're doing and what they're saying. You know, the transhumanism agenda, and Harari saying that, you know, humans are hackable animals. If we said that, you know, kind of, it's deemed that, surely that's deemed as hate speech. That's incitement to hate. But they can just, blatantly come out with these statements. And Schwab in Davos recently talking about, in 10 years, we're going to have brain implant chips. It's like, not in my name. I'm a free, sovereign being. There's not going to be any intrusion into my body. Well, my declaration is I am sovereign, and that will be the way until I graduate to the next life. And I think my own personal journey of sovereignty really came out of time during the lockdown, researching, thinking, critical thinking about the meaning of life and the value of life, and sitting at home, I live alone, and just thinking about where things are going and who I am as an individual. And that's where I really had a realisation of my own personal sovereignty and autonomy. So many people have just really kind of given themselves up to this agenda. And I think there's a lot of people who haven't really thought things out, and done due diligence. We live in a very quick fix, kind of impulsive culture where everything is immediate and we've got to get this done, and the hurry up driver, let's get it done and let's get this fixed and let's get over it and out the other side. And that's the mindset of society right in this present time. But this transhumanism agenda is something that I think, how many people in here would actually approve that, an invasion of your sovereignty in your body? I don't see any hands up. No. And there are millions of us worldwide. Well, billions, in fact, worldwide. I think they've overplayed their hand, and they're getting very desperate. They're throwing everything they can at us. You've got the EU pushing hard on this digital identity. Oh yes, you need facial recognition. Just picture it. You need facial recognition to come in here, or go in the local pub, or go into a supermarket, a shop, or any public place, or public transport. How the hell is that going to work? Their ideology. They think that society is a complete pushover. That we're all just going to take it on the chin and in our stride, and you'll get away with this dark, twisted ideology and agenda. Facial recognition for what? For what? And on this control grid, mass surveillance, intrusive surveillance. There was a speech from Boris Johnson a couple of years ago. And one of the parts of the speech, he said there'll be nowhere to hide. The technology will be in your mattress at home, watching you everywhere. It's just bonkers. It's balmy. I mean, what are they trying to achieve? What is the end goal apart from enslavement and for us all? So I have noted a couple of questions. So, in whose interest do the World Economic Forum act? Are they on our side? No. Or are they acting in the interest of billion-dollar global corporates who are its members? Yeah. Do they see us as humans? I think that's very clear. They don't. They see us as serfs. Yes, they see us as cattle. We are not QR cattle, and that's their view. They do believe we're cattle. And who gave the WF any authority over us all? No one that we recognise, as far as we can all see. But Prince Charles seems to be very fond of the WEF, and his comments recently, I've had a lot of respect for Prince Charles over the years with his, kind of environmental concerns and so on, and his, interest in the esoteric world, organic farming and so on. But his comments of we all need to change our lives and the way we live, well, that's fine. But how about leading by example? That, you know, if you're going to instruct us all to, fine, okay, we'll change the way we live, and but how about you leading by example and setting that example that we can actually follow, and then, you know, respect you for doing that. Well, as I said earlier, talk to everyone, renounce the World Economic Forum, don't resist them, we live life on our terms, opt out of everything that they are instructing, particularly this digital identity. I'm not going to be participating in it. It's going to be difficult though if this does get that far. We have overturned the vaccine passports, which was an unmanageable system, particularly in the industry I work in. They wanted to roll these passports out at venues, and security companies and owners and managers of venues said, well, it will take, you know, a couple of hours, 2-3 hours to process people to get them into venues by using this system. So that system, they realised that system was not going to work. But the digital identity has been the foundations of this from the beginning, and that's been there in the background, and it's you know, it's becoming more prominent. They're really doing all they can to have us all in you know, in a digital identity. So, you know, we've got to think about what we can do to create solutions around that, and live life on our terms, not on anyone else's terms, and do not be divided. I hope that actually, you know, quite a lot of that has, maybe some of you have shared similar experiences, and yeah, and I hope I've made a number of things clear there. There's so much to talk about and explain, and yeah, let's keep attending rallies. Rallies are very important. You hear these people saying, well, rallies don't work, nothing gets done, but what rallies actually do, they bring us together in hundreds of thousands of people. That raises energy. You know, there's love and unity around, and we feel connected to the source energy, and that's the power of rallies. We meet new people, we network with people, we engage with members of the public, and the next rally in July the 2nd, I'll be at that rally, as I always am, and would like to think that lots of you will also be attending that. I think we need a million people back on the streets like what we saw last year. That was absolutely incredible, and I think the way things are unfolding, there's going to be a return to that. So yeah, thank you for coming along, thank you for listening, and yeah.